Thanks for that, Craig. I actually listened to that advice today with my team, so we could go faster too, after hearing his speech the other day. Our next speaker is Carlo Missio. Carlo has over 20 years of experience working on public realm projects across the USA, Australia, Asia, and Europe. He's been involved in every facet of product development in public and private sectors as both client and consultant. Carlo has worked on the City of Melbourne design team and with firms such as Taylor Cullity Lethlean and West 8. He now lives in the Twin Cities, where he serves as the senior urban designer for WSB and Associates, a national design and engineering firm. Please welcome Carlo.
I broke it. Hang on. Sorry, Katie.
No, not at all.
There you go.
Oh, did that come back up?
Yep. It was there for a second. Good to go. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to break the presentation. Everyone has a personal journey and a story to tell. My design journey started as a kid in Australia. I was inspired by the strong people and the amazing places around me. These factors have continued to influence me throughout my career as a landscape architect and urban designer. Working across 4 continents over the past 2 decades, as my realm of influences expanded from local to regional to global, I have sought to find a balance between my desire for creativity and the need to deliver solutions to complex technical problems. As the son of an Italian immigrant builder, I grew up on construction sites across Melbourne. Since a very young age, I would spend every school holiday going to work with my father, uncles, and cousins, and I would play with the tradesmen's dogs, clean the tools, unload materials, and generally get into trouble. Often coming home in the back of the flatbed, drenched in mud or covered in dirt. It was an awesome experience for me, and I learned a lot about personal interaction on a construction site and the general process of construction and how to solve problems and design issues. But the life on the tools did not appeal to me, and I preferred to be on the other side of the drawing board. Australia is uniquely blessed, with exceptional landscapes and natural environments. It may be the low population or the low density of people that amplifies this sense of wonder, which has had a huge impact on me. From the outset, my perception of landscape architecture would be filtered through this lens of the Australian landscape. And then I found myself studying under an American professor. This inspirational and charismatic character, who, like many newcomers to Australia, was fascinated by Aboriginal culture. He exposed us to an Indigenous understanding of the land and the landscape. This idea of listening to the land through its stories and through the people that occupy it is something that I would carry with me throughout my whole career. Then came a fundamentally life-changing experience. I went on a walk with these 3 gentlemen along a songline in the remote northwest of Australia. One of these gentlemen is no longer with us. This Dreamtime creation story, or songline, can only be articulated as the physical manifestation of a belief system, kind of Bible written into the landscape. This was a deep insight into Aboriginal culture not taught to us as children in Australia. Australia's historically and undeniably racist policies towards Indigenous people made this even more of a spiritual awakening. And after this powerful emotional experience, I felt the need to journey to other places in the world and find that same sense of insight into place, to learn from other peoples and cultures about their understanding of the land and the way they interact with their landscapes, whether they be natural, rural, or urban. Visiting and studying and working in various countries around the world, I observed that the fundamental tenets of placemaking were always about people. Listening to personal stories about places and the people who occupy them gives you a depth of understanding and insight into a rich cultural story. This could be considered its own form of songline, or as termed by Gaston Bachelard, a poetics of space, as it were. This richness and diversity of history and culture then poses a question to the designer. How do you integrate this understanding of personal stories and cultural nuances of individual places with the archetypal similarities of people in general? Well, a big influence on me and my understanding and approach to designing space was these inspirational mentors who many of themselves had struggled with that very same question. I now take every opportunity to mentor students and colleagues myself, and I still endeavour to learn wherever possible from people, particularly finding myself in a new place with a new climate and new peculiarities. And it's humbling to think that the timescale we operate in as landscape architects is not instantaneous. All of these people may have planted together 1 million trees in their careers and not see one of them grow to its full maturity before they leave this earth. So, there is an idiom in design that you may have heard called turning your constraints into your opportunities. And this phrase evokes the problem-solving aspect of design, but it can be interpreted as a more philosophical thing. Life is what you make of it. And if you're passionate about your career as a designer, don't be scared to chase your dreams. I was an associate at a large practice in Melbourne, very successful, and decided to just resign and undertake a master's in Italy. Why? Why not? It was called Master of Extraordinary Landscapes. And it was in Italy. I had to do it. While I was there, I was preparing for my internship and I applied to Westgate in Rotterdam. I sent my resume and I rang them day after day after day until they asked me to come for an interview. I got that position through unashamed self-belief and being particularly annoying. So John Cleese talks about designers, and in particular architects, and he says they are a great example of left and right brain thinking. But in my experience, a successful team is not made up of an individual, but 3 or 4 people who have complementary skills, strengths, and a willingness to listen to one another. This juxtaposition between problem solving and the creative aspects of design could best be described as my former firm did in the title of their book, Poetic Pragmatism. This idea challenges us to really consider who we are designing for and how we can meet their needs, not just satisfy our own desires as designers. Whether those needs are contradictory or complementary, we strive to find a harmonious balance. Lastly, back to John Cleese. I think it's important not to take yourself too seriously, or nobody else will. You must still be passionate, be professional, and be technically adept at what you do. But you also need to be yourself, and you need to learn to communicate with people in order to listen to their ideas and to articulate your own ideas with clarity and in a way that engages with people from all walks of life, not just other designers. Thank you.